I think it can be hard to understand what to do in the exact heat of the moment because a lot of times when we listen to a lot of content about, don't make decisions rooted in anxiety and don't give life to your fears and don't give in to overthinking, it can be hard to acknowledge and understand, okay, but what do I actually do? I'm experiencing a mountain of discomfort. And I understand logically when I'm sitting in my room listening to your podcast, Kinzer, I understand logically what you're saying. It makes so much sense to me. It feels like the answer to the equation is X, Y, Z, and it makes sense. But when I'm actually in the decision making process, I'm overcome with emotion and my vision is fogged. And I'm going to try to dedicate this episode to sort of navigating you what to do in the exact heat of the moment because I think we benefit the most like right after we see progress almost for the first time or the first couple times where we were like, wow, okay, I get it now, because you can't really understand it fully by just listening or reading or watching or anything. So let's sort of go through an example of what may happen, right? So you're face to face with sort of two choices. You can either, let's say, choice one is, walk through the door and there's going to be a lot of sort of triggers there, a lot of things that trigger your fear, a lot of things that trigger your anxiety. There's going to be a lot of those sort of challenges present, but you understand that walking through that door is going to give you something that you really want. Maybe that's a something socially or something you've been working really hard towards, anything like that. There's going to be some sort of rewarding aspect to it. There's something that you want on the other side. And simply put, choice number two, door number two, leads right to your room, straight to your bedroom, to the comfort of your home, under a nice, warm, heavy blanket, maybe watching a movie. And I think what people mistake is they mistake comfort and safety for the right choice. And this is how you get further down into the hole. And this is how you start to teach your brain to prioritize comfort and sort of easiness instead of rewarding it for undergoing difficult challenges. And this is where sort of two paths begin to sort of emerge in people's lives. And it separates those who sort of live their lives as they want, with purpose, with decision, and with drive, and the others who sort of slowly keep falling down the more misery, sort of safety seeking path. And it's this sort of heat of the moment decision. And then let's go over you in this instance. So you're staring at the two doors, and what you usually do is you just pick the door that leads to your bedroom or your home because it's comfortable, it's safe. You don't have to worry about any of those triggers, any of those challenges. You don't have to undergo any sort of difficult experiences. You don't have to feel all those really difficult emotions. You don't have to step outside your comfort zone. It seems like the right choice because it's just so avoidable of all this sort of extra stuff, And I'm wording it like this because I don't want to sort of create a villain out of that choice because sometimes we just want to go home. Sometimes we just want to chill. It's understandable, you know? But what we're talking about now, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, because the big theme in overthinking and anxiety and even in OCD and any other sort of, I guess, mental attitude that sort of portrays itself in this way is that we almost don't want to admit that we're playing it safe by choosing one choice. We almost don't want to admit that we're avoiding our triggers, that we're avoiding fears, and that we're avoiding anxiety because we understand that that will sort of create a narrative where we have to face those things. And this can go on for a long time, guys. A long time. People can go many years not truly facing their triggers, not really facing their anxieties. And they keep thinking that they're making progress because they're aware of their sort of, I guess, mental diagnosis. If you want to say that, it doesn't even need a full diagnosis, but they're aware of their mental patterns. They understand it from a psychological and structural point of view. But what they're lacking is the emotional and initiative, drive, and willpower that actually comes from growth. If you're not showing your brain new experiences, if your brain isn't having to overcome challenges in life, whether that be socially, interpersonally, career-wise, anything, any sort of challenges, you're probably playing it safe. You're probably prioritizing that same sort of comfort, that same choice, that same door that you've been doing for all those years. And I promise you, that door is going to keep you miserable. It's going to keep you suffering. It's going to keep you in a sort of seek shelter mindset instead of run towards the storm and free yourself finally and at last mindset. So when you're making the decision, you're in the heat of the moment, what you're going to feel probably is an intense amount of emotional discomfort. That's what you're going to feel. And it rings true in different people's bodies in different ways. I'm not going to go over where in your body you may feel it, but notice where you may feel it in your body. And what you can even do is you can even write down the physical experiences of what you're feeling. And then at the end, you could write it down if you wish, but just acknowledge, what are you actually afraid of? Deep down, what are you actually afraid of happening if you walk through door 2? Recognize that right now. Close your eyes and recognize what you actually fear may happen by going through door number 2. And now, let us understand that fear that you just mentioned is, if we're talking in the scheme of overthinking, anxiety, fear, OCD, in this entire mental paradigm, that fear that you just mentioned is completely imaginary. It's not even real. And the chances are, the very good chances are, there is almost no chance of that thing probably happening. And I hesitate to say fully and completely that it's not going to happen, because I don't, people like to cling themselves onto, you know, anxiety and overthinking when they don't really experience it. So someone may fear tripping, you know, and falling when they're playing a soccer game. And that's just not the same, right? We understand that's not overthinking and anxiety. Tripping happens all the time in a soccer game. You fall all the time when you play sports. So that's a different conversation. And if you're sort of coming at this angle and you're listening to this episode and you don't really suffer from the things I'm saying, try to apply it into the circumstances of your life that are currently holding you back. And don't sort of try to maneuver the exact advice that I'm giving to every single little aspect of your life. Does that make sense? So now you've recognized the physical things you're feeling, and you may have labeled the one or two, three, however many fears you have that may occur when you walk through door number 2, right? We're aware of it. And this is where we've been probably. This is probably where you've been for a long time. You're aware of it. You understand it. You get that it's nonsense. You get that it's BS. It's irrational. But yet, we still walk through door number 1. So this is sort of the heat of the moment decision-making process that we sort of need to hyper focus on. And it's that you know this already. You know it deep down. You have to walk straight through door number 2 with no regard for door number 1. And I know it's so difficult because you don't want the things that you fear, the things that you're anxious about, that your thoughts are telling you, you don't want any of those things to happen. But you have no reason to believe those things are going to happen. And that energy that is creating the fear around those ideas, around those future circumstances, if you don't face them, if you don't walk through door number 2, you are going to continue to suffer. And I say this unfortunately, but it keeps getting worse the more you choose door number 2, because you're reinforcing your mind. You're conditioning your mind to behave, understand, observe, analyze, and act in a certain way. For those of you who listen to the podcast and a lot of the different episodes, you'll see all the time that I emphasize that we can condition and program our minds consciously, but we can also do that in the negative form. There's no fairy tale going on where, you can just choose one thing and everything fixes itself. No, the brain, it works systematically. The same way that we can program and condition ourselves to find our way out of that deep, dark hole that we've been existing in and face all those difficult emotions, it's that same mechanism, but when it's worked in the opposite way, that actually pushes us deeper down into that dark hole. So when you're standing in front of the two doors, and when you put one foot after the other and begin to walk towards door number two, you have to recognize that all of the physical discomfort, as well as the emotional discomfort, as well as the mental thought form discomfort, these are all old conditioning of your mind trying to keep you safe. This isn't some new thing. This isn't some new intuitive guide. This isn't some new sort of wisdom appearing within your body trying to prevent this fear that you've been fearing for such a long time from happening. That's not the case. And that's what the mind loves to do. It loves to wrap itself around new circumstances and lead you to believe that, oh, yeah, this time is different, in quotations. This time is different. There's something you actually need to avoid this time. If you go through door number two, those things you fear and that anxiety, it's actually going to happen this time. Of course, it's nonsense. It's absolutely nonsense. And we get blinded and we get struck by the sword of fear. So, as much as we can deliberate and intellectualize this entire process, when you're standing in front of those two doors, it's going to take willpower and it's going to take you trusting what I'm saying to you. Not because I'm saying it to you, not because you trust me, but because this is actual backed psychology. You can do further research on this. You can Google this. This is how people overcome fear, anxiety, and overthinking, and especially how people overcome something like OCD and all these different things. You have to be willing to face that discomfort. Let reality do as it like. Let reality be as it is to you when you walk through door number two. And a lot of times, the reason that this goes on for so many years is because people aren't willing. They don't want to be free bad enough. And this is kind of where I separate myself in the matter because I do see this as a sort of battle. I preach and I say a lot of the time how much we need to show ourselves grace and, forgiveness and peace and patience. But there are also times where we can't accept the same nonsense from our old conditioning. We can't let fear hold us back. We cannot. We will be trapped. Someone who's trying to sell you this fairy tale or this idea, or how there's some mechanism, there's one particular thing that you can do that's going to completely free you from this sort of fear, energy, anxiety, and overthinking that you've been feeling for so long. They're probably pretty full of it, to be honest. You got to will your way through door number two. And after you walk through door number two, then we could start to talk about how did you feel walking through door number two? What was the emotional discomfort like? What was the physical discomfort like? Then we can start talking about it. But when it becomes a challenge of putting one foot in front of the other and walking through the correct door, the door that is through the storm, the triggers, the anxieties, the fears, everything, no one is going to come and do it for you. And no mental practice is going to move your feet for you. It's the same you that needs to make that decision. The you right now, the you that's making that decision right now, the you that's listening to this podcast right now, it's you. You need to muster up the strength. In the future, you're still going to be you because the version of yourself that you're waiting to become that is beyond these fear and anxieties, it's not going to happen until you walk through the door, until you walk through that storm that's filled with triggers and anxieties and fears. You will start to level up. And all that's required from you is walking and putting one foot in front of the other, is being brave, feeling that discomfort. Just let it happen. Let yourself feel that discomfort as you walk through that door. Just let yourself feel it. Don't go the other way. Don't let the discomfort turn you in the other direction and walk the other way. I promise you, what you want from your life, the dreams that you imagine so vividly, the life that you want, all the things that you want out of your reality, it's going to happen by training yourself to be more brave and to walk through fear, to not give in to fear. The version of yourself that you're looking to become, that is, we can imagine it. You're not struck at all. You're not deterred at all by the anxiety, by the fears, by the triggers that you once were, or maybe that you are now. But that version of you is not going to happen by staying in your room and listening to videos or trying different mental practices. It's going to happen in the heat of the moment when you're face to face with those two doors again and again and again. And you can actually, you might start seeking out these opportunities. You might start seeking out opportunities that are filled with triggers and fears and anxieties because you understand every time you walk through the door that is surrounded by clouds of the storm, every time you walk through that door, you basically gain points towards your inner freedom. You become that version of yourself that you want to be so bad. But I want to emphasize nothing and no one is going to come and save you. No one is going to come and move your 2 feet for you. You have to do it scared. While that fear is still ringing in your mind, while those thoughts are still racing, while your palms are sweaty, you feel like you just want to run away, you want to put your blanket on, watch a movie, go in bed instead of doing all this extra stuff. I know, and it's the choice that people make every day. People make that choice, that wrong, anxiety-based, avoidant choice every single day. And then they wonder why the misery persists. They wonder why the suffering still exists. I'm a big proponent of meditation, of course, but you can't sit in your room and meditate your way out of this. You can meditate on it after. You can meditate on it before, but you need to walk through the door. You have to. You have to. You have to, in a way, be your own hero. So I hope that helps. And when you're face to face with those doors again, I want you to remember what I'm telling you now. Because it's not going to be to my credit that you find yourself some growth, you find some relief. It's going to be to your own credit. Because a lot of the stuff I'm saying right now, you already know, but maybe you just needed a third person perspective to tell you there's no other way. There's no other way. And if we want to add a little bit of grace and a little bit of a cherry on top, it's not going to be as bad as you think. It's not going to be as bad as you think. The fear and the idea of it is making it way, way worse than it's actually going to be. No matter what it might be a little awkward, it might be a little intimidating, it might be scary, it might be new, it might be weird. It's not going to be the nightmare that you're imagining. It's not going to be. Because your thoughts don't know the future. You're not a fortune teller. You don't know what's going to happen. And especially, you don't know what's going to happen when all those ideas and thoughts are rooted and based in fear. Fear is a predictor. And you've taken these predictions and you've started almost using them like a drug. Because fear is addictive too. We get addicted to the feeling of safety that we get from choosing the other door. It's an addictive feeling. Comfort is addictive. When we put our heavy blanket on and we think, wow, like this is so much better than having to walk through that other door that would have required so much emotional effort and so much bravery and so much discomfort. I mean, why would anyone choose that door? And the answer is the answer of consciousness and the answer of emotional freedom and evolution is that's how you live. That's how you live a life where you're fully a participant, where you're living life to the fullest, where you actually get the things that you want out of life. The mindset that why would anyone choose that door when you could just go home and be comfortable? That's a dangerous mindset, a very dangerous mindset. And we need to not only if we find ourselves engaging in that mindset, I mean, we need to understand there's a direct correlation between choosing comfort and safety every time and the anxiety, fear, and overthinking we're experiencing. I mean, there's a direct correlation. Our brain understands actions better than any language. So I want you guys to maybe ponder on that for a while. And as you go about your days, as you encounter the decisions, as reality throws its hand at you and you have to make a choice, I want you to remember that the door that you choose is completely a representation of the direction your life is going to go. It sounds silly, right? The door you choose is going to lead to where you end up, but it's true. It really is true. And no one is going to come and move those 2 feet for you. You have to rip off the Band-Aid yourself. Thank you guys for listening, and Next episode should be a Q&A episode. So if you guys are listening to this now, I'm also going to post a story, but you can send me a DM if we've ever DM'd before. You can just send me a voice note directly. Or if you need to request a message, you could just title the message voice note and I'll accept and like your message and you can send me a question for the next episode. It's a pleasure as always, guys. Oh, yeah. Of course, if you want to buy my books, you can go to shop-kinzer.com or find them on Amazon, whichever you'd like. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next episode and walk through the door that will provide you emotional freedom. Break the loop, break the pattern. You can. It needs to be you.